back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited that you're here back with me. Today I'm going to be showing you how I dye and wax my brows at home. I've been wanting to do this for a little while because whenever people ask me if I dye my brows and I tell them that I do it at home, they usually have a lot of questions or want to know how I do it or whatever, so I thought this would be a really cool, different kind of tutorial to show y'all, but it's still kind of makeup and beauty related. I started doing this because it always kind of bothered me because my eyebrows did not match my hair color. Like, my natural hair color is pretty dark, and my eyebrows when they're not dyed are, I would say, closer to where the dyed color of my hair is. I don't claim this to be my own thing. I found this on YouTube a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago, but a good bit ago. But I have tweaked it to do my own little things with it, and I learned some things about it along the way, so I've changed how I do it a little bit. I've loved doing it ever since I started, and I don't think I could ever go back to not having my eyebrows dyed. Like, if there was 3 things that I could have on a deserted island, it would be brow dyeing kit, contacts, and my Tempur-Pedic pillow. So anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so the product I use to dye my brows is just for men, and it's the Mustache and Beard, and it looks like this, and I get it in dark brown. I get it out of the box, and it has a little tray, a color developer, a color base, and a little mixing spoon. And so I always do more than I need, but I don't know, it's kind of hard to judge, so I usually just do it about halfway on this line. And I'll do the color base first, so I'll do it about like that. Then the color developer. And I did it about the same. I can't show it because it would go all over the place. And I've seen other people who do this technique and they use like fancy brushes or whatever. I honestly just use the brush it came with, and just, obviously I don't do this with it. I go like that on it. I usually just get a little bit on the end. I'll show you later, but I mean, I don't find that there's a reason to use a different brush, so just mix it up. And this looks like it needs more of the color no, not the color base. What? Yeah, the color base. So I'm going to add just a little bit more of that. And just do a little dot. And yeah, that looks about right. So then I usually let it sit for a minute. I don't really think you have to do that, but that's what I've always done. And so when I first started doing this, I would comb my brows, and then the next step I would do is put Vaseline around the brow to keep the color from transferring onto my skin and just to make like cleanup easier, but I don't do that step anymore. I feel like after you've done this a couple times, it's pretty easy to get the hang of it and you don't really need an outline anymore. I was gonna just do it just for informational purposes, but I don't even have any Vaseline in the house right now, and it's kind of a waste of money when I don't use it for anything other than this, and I don't even use it for this anymore. So I'm just gonna show you the Q-tip what I would do. I would just go right in here, up a little bit, over the brow like that, over this part, and up there. And be careful not to touch any hairs. But also another thing, if you think you could handle it without the Vaseline, I found that it sticks to the hair a lot better and it reaches all the hairs, because inevitably you're going to get a little bit of Vaseline on 1 or 2 hairs, or maybe like a couple at the bottom, and then they won't be as dark, you know. So I prefer this now. I pick a little bit up on the brush, just a little bit on this end right here, and just start going over it like that. until it looks about like that. And as you can see, my brow looks a little crazy, a little wavy because of the brush obviously, but I really didn't go on the skin honestly at all. So yeah, once you get the hang of it, the Vaseline is not necessary. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other eye off camera. Okay, so now both eyebrows are done and I've gotta wait about 5 minutes. Sometimes a little less or sometimes a little more depending on how recent the last time I dyed my brows was. I think the last time I did it though was probably like 2 weeks ago, so I'll leave it 5 minutes if not more. So while we're waiting on that, I'm gonna go ahead and get my wax strips ready. And this is what I use to wax my brows. And it is by Hansen and it's the Hair Remover Wax Strip Kit for Face and Bikini. And I want to say this same kit has lasted me since this summer and probably like early summer. Same thing with the brow thing. I just recently got a new little dye thing for my brows. I'd had the same one since summer until probably like November. So these are really cheap alternatives and they last a long time. So I'm reduced to the bigger strips now, which is a downside of this, but I've got strips like this, and I'm just going to cut them into small little strips like this, and those about in half. You'll see what it looks like more later, but I used to like measure and do, I think I have one of those here. Like this is where I cut out to do under my brow, and I used to do that, but honestly it's risky business. I didn't really have any problems, but it always made me nervous that I was going to maybe go a little too high and pull a part of my brow that I needed off, and it's also a lot of work to measure your eyebrow and do it with a pin and then cut it out, you know. So now I really just do the straight things, and I do the top and the side, and then underneath I just tweeze. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those strips now. Okay, so I ended up with 4 strips that look like this. I don't know if you can see that well, but it's got a little bit of wax right here, and then that's paper. And those are gonna go here and here. And then I cut 1 strip to go down the middle. And obviously I didn't make it as wide as my eyebrows because I'd rather just tweeze that close, but just to easily get the hairs right there. And then another thing I wanted to mention is the reason I do the waxing after the dye. The first time I did this, I did the waxing first because that was how I saw it done. And then I ended up reading like a week or so later that you're not supposed to ever wax and then dye your brows because your pores are open after you wax, and then putting dye on your brows could get dye in your pores, and then they could get infected. You don't want that. So I always dye first and then wax. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes and they're looking pretty dark. I'm a little over the line here, but that's okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and take you over to my sink. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have an older washcloth, and this one has some dye on it already. So I'm going to wet the washcloth and then wipe off this dye. And now that most of the dye is off, I'm going to get some shampoo and just kind of rub that in my eyebrows and then wash that off. And that'll make sure that there's no dye left, and it'll stop the dyeing process. So I just have a little bit of shampoo. I'm going to put just a little bit in each brow and rub it in. And then wet my washcloth again and wash that off. Okay, so now that the dyeing process is over, I'm going to start waxing. So the first step is to take one of these strips and rub it between your fingers, and that's going to heat up the wax and make it stick. Okay, then pull it apart. I'm going to place it right about there. Rub it into place in the direction that your hair grows. And then pull it in the opposite direction. And then comb it. And that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and use the other side. So I actually ended up making too many of these, but that's okay, I'll just use them later. So place that. About there. Okay, and pull it opposite direction the hair grows. And comb it. Okay, and that's one side of the waxing done. Now I'm gonna do the other side quickly. And I actually did end up finding this piece that fit pretty perfectly right in there, but still not too close. But it's gonna get more hairs than the other one, so I'm gonna do this one. And then this hair grows up, so I'm gonna pull it down. Okay, and there we go. That's all the waxing done, so now I'm gonna do some quick tweezing on the underneath. Okay, and that's the tweezing done. Now I'm gonna use just a little oil that comes in the Sally Hansen stuff. It's called Azuline finishing oil. I have no idea. But I just like to put that on where I waxed. And I don't think this stuff is like a miracle worker or anything, but it does help with some of the irritation, so I usually will just go ahead and put it on. And then I only leave it on for maybe 30 seconds, not that long. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and fill in my brows and set them into place, and I'll be right back. And this is the finished result. I know they might look a little strong on camera right now. The first time I did it, or dyed my brows, I was like at the result. But it does fade, especially if you shower right after or whenever you shower next, it will fade. Like the color that's actually on your skin, because it is dyed under my skin too. It's not under my skin, but on my skin under where my eyebrow hairs are. So that will be gone usually almost all the way if you even just wash your face, but especially once you shower. Then I would say it fades until it's almost all the way back to what it was before in about 2 weeks. It could be a little less time if you don't do it for the full 5 minutes, or a little more time if you do it for longer. That's why I typically do it for a little more than 5 minutes, because doing it every 2 weeks, even though 2 weeks is a long time in between having to do it, it's also really not. So I like to try to get as much use of it as I can. Yeah, so I hope this video was really helpful for you guys. I've been wanting to do this. I get questions sometimes about my brows and if I do them myself or whatever, and when I tell people that I dye them with just for men at home, their looks on their faces are usually pretty shocked. So yeah, I thought this would be a cool little tutorial to show y'all, and I hope that it helped some of y'all. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.